Men rarely miss you in the way movies teach us to believe. They don't sit in dark rooms whispering your name or sending long texts at midnight. No, when a man secretly misses you, it begins quietly, almost invisibly. He doesn't even call it missing you at first. He just feels a strange emptiness that he can't quite name. His life goes on, he laughs with his friends, he checks his phone 100 times a day, but tells himself it's for something else. He tries to convince himself he's fine, but something small feels off. There's a space where your energy used to live, and he doesn't yet realize that's what he's searching for. See, men often process emotions in silence before they allow them to surface. It's not because they don't feel deeply, it's because they've been taught to manage emotions through logic rather than vulnerability. So when he starts missing you, it doesn't look like sadness. It looks like distraction. It looks like him working late, playing more video games, or keeping himself constantly busy. The silence is not emotional emptiness. It's emotional overload that he's trying to control. And that's where the irony lies. The more he suppresses what he feels, the more it takes hold of him. At first, he'll rationalize it. He'll tell himself, I just need space, or I'm just tired. He'll convince himself he's better off alone, that life feels lighter without the pressure of connection. But then, the quiet moments arrive, the ones where there's no noise, no phone, no distractions. That's when it hits him. That's when his mind begins to wander to you. He starts to remember how your laugh softened his bad days, how your presence made even silence feel full. And that's the thing about missing someone. It doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers in the middle of an ordinary day and catches him off guard. There's also a battle that happens inside him, between pride and longing. His ego tells him to stay strong, to not give you the satisfaction of knowing he still cares. His heart, on the other hand, is quietly aching, hoping you'll somehow sense it. So he says nothing. He waits. He watches your stories, scrolls through old photos, maybe checks your profile late at night, but he won't reach out. Because admitting he misses you feels like surrender, and surrender terrifies him more than losing you ever did. But make no mistake, his silence doesn't mean he's over you. In fact, silence is often the space where men begin to realize what they truly feel. The absence of words doesn't mean absence of thought. It means he's trying to understand what those thoughts mean. That's why so many men come back after weeks or months, acting like nothing happened. It's not that they suddenly remembered you. It's that they were missing you long before they had the courage to name it. When a man misses you in silence, you'll never see it right away. It's not visible through actions, but through inconsistencies. The sudden text after weeks of nothing, the small comment on something trivial, the subtle way he lingers in conversation, it all carries the quiet confession he's too proud to make. And if you've ever wondered why his words don't match his actions, it's because missing someone isn't always logical. It's emotional, it's messy, and it lives between denial and desire. So when you feel that distance, don't assume he's forgotten you. Men often miss you long before they reach out. They do it quietly internally in the privacy of their own thoughts. He'll miss you in silence before he ever admits it out loud, because silence is the safest place for him to wrestle with what his heart already knows. That somewhere between all the pretending and distractions, he lost something that felt like home. Distance has a strange way of revealing truth. When you step back, when your energy is no longer easily available, something subtle begins to shift inside him. It's not instant. It doesn't happen the moment you walk away. At first, he might even feel a sense of relief, like space is what he needed. He'll convince himself he's enjoying the freedom, that he's better off without the emotional weight of the connection. But slowly, almost imperceptibly, the silence starts to stretch and the absence of you begins to echo. What once felt like clarity starts to feel like emptiness, and he doesn't quite understand why. You see, distance doesn't just create space, between two people. It magnifies what's real and exposes what's shallow. When a man secretly misses you, it's not because you told him to think of you. It's because your absence interrupts the rhythm of his world. The small things, your voice, your tone, the way you noticed details no one else did, they all fade from his daily life, and that's when he starts to notice how much color you added to it. It's not about grand gestures or dramatic memories. It's about the subtle loss of emotional familiarity. Distance becomes the mirror that reflects what he couldn't see when you were near. When you were around, he may have taken your presence for granted. Your texts arrived like clockwork, your affection felt reliable, and your attention gave him comfort. But when that energy pulls away, the mind begins to crave what it once dismissed. It's almost psychological. The moment something constant becomes uncertain, the desire for it intensifies. He starts checking his phone, not even consciously waiting for your message, but hoping for a digital trace of you, a story, a post, a sign that you're still within reach. It's not that he suddenly became more loving. It's that distance forced him to confront the void that routine had hidden. The fascinating part is that men rarely recognize this feeling as missing you in the beginning. They just feel restless. Something feels off. They might even project that unease onto other things: work, stress, boredom, exhaustion. But no matter how much they distract themselves, the feeling lingers. And that's when it starts to click. The moments that used to feel light now feel dull, conversations lack spark, and the laughter that once came naturally now feels effortful. Your absence becomes louder than your presence ever was, because silence has a way of amplifying what's emotionally unresolved. This is why emotional distance often speaks louder than words. You don't need to chase, remind, or prove your worth. The space itself does the teaching. It forces him to feel what he avoided when you were near, the weight of your absence. Men often need that quiet distance to realize the difference between wanting attention and missing connection. Attention feeds the ego, but connection feeds the soul, and only distance can separate the two. So when you stop reaching out, it's not punishment, it's clarity. You're not creating a game, you're creating perspective. Because when your energy is constantly available, he never gets to experience what life feels like without it. But when you step back, he suddenly understands what your presence provided. The laughter, the emotional grounding, the ease, it all starts to replay in his mind like fragments of a song he can't turn off. That's when the realization dawns, not as a dramatic confession, but as a quiet awareness that something essential is missing. Distance turns the invisible into visible. It teaches him through contrast how calm felt with you, how empty it feels now. And that's the beauty of emotional space. It doesn't beg, it doesn't chase, it simply reveals. The more he tries to fill it with distractions, the more he's reminded of what he lost. Because in the end, the moment he begins to feel your absence more deeply than he ever appreciated your presence, that's when he truly starts to miss you. When a man secretly misses you, he rarely comes right out and says it. Instead, he starts showing it in small, almost invisible ways that betray the feelings he's trying to hide. It's rarely a grand gesture or a sudden confession. It's subtle, cautious, even a little clumsy. Because when a man misses you but isn't ready to admit it, he doesn't approach you directly. He tests the water first, hoping to reconnect without exposing his vulnerability. So he finds little excuses, small openings that let him feel close to you again without having to say the words out loud. Maybe it starts with a random text that seems meaningless. Hey, did you see this? Or, I just heard that song you like. On the surface, it's casual, nothing to analyze, but the truth underneath is far from casual. That message is his way of checking if the door is still open. If you'll respond with the same warmth you once did, it's not about the content of the message, it's about the connection it represents. Men often use logic to protect their emotions, so he convinces himself he's just being friendly. But every word he types carries a quiet longing, a soft echo of, I miss you. Sometimes he won't even text. He'll appear in smaller ways, liking your posts, watching your stories, leaving a comment that seems harmless. These digital breadcrumbs aren't accidents, they're signals. He's reminding you that he's still around, still noticing you, still hovering in your orbit. He won't risk a full conversation, but he also can't bear the thought of complete silence. His ego wants to seem unbothered, but his behavior betrays him. The man who once claimed he's moved on somehow still finds reasons to linger where you exist. You might notice him popping up in conversations with mutual friends, casually asking how you've been or what you're doing lately. He'll mask his curiosity as politeness, but it's never just curiosity. It's the quiet ache of wanting to know if you've already replaced him, if your life still has a space where he used to fit. Men who miss you secretly often walk a fine line. They want proximity without exposure. They want to reconnect without risking rejection. So instead of saying, "I miss you," they create scenarios where contact feels accidental, where vulnerability hides behind coincidence. Even his tone shifts when he talks to you. There's a softness that wasn't there before, a hesitation that comes from remembering what he once had and realizing he might have lost it. His messages might take longer to write. His jokes might feel slightly forced, as if he's trying to recreate the comfort that used to come naturally. And that's what happens when a man misses you. He's chasing a feeling he can't fully explain. He remembers how it felt to be understood by you, and suddenly, every small interaction becomes a way to feel that connection again, even for a moment. What's interesting is that this stage often confuses women because it feels inconsistent. He reaches out, then disappears. He likes your photos, then goes silent again. But that inconsistency isn't lack of interest, it's fear. He's torn between wanting to reach out and wanting to stay protected. His actions are fragments of what he can't yet say. That's why it's important not to mistake his indirect efforts for indifference. When a man starts reaching in small ways, it's often his way of saying, "I still care, but I don't know how to say it without losing face." So those small, seemingly insignificant gestures, they matter. They're the quiet steps of a man trying to bridge the gap between pride and longing. He won't say, "I miss you," because that feels too exposed. But in every random message, every subtle interaction, every half-hearted attempt to reconnect, he's revealing something deeper. He's showing you that you still occupy space in his mind, even if he's pretending it's all just coincidence. Because when a man secretly misses you, he doesn't confess it with words. He confesses it through patterns, through presence, through the quiet persistence of someone who can't quite let go. When a man secretly misses you, memories become the language his heart speaks. He may not talk about it. He may not even allow himself to dwell on it for too long. But the mind has a way of replaying moments it's not ready to let go of. It begins subtly. A song plays on the radio and suddenly he's transported to a night you both laughed until it hurt. He passes by a cafe and his eyes linger, remembering how you used to sit there sipping your drink, listening, teasing, being effortlessly present. These moments sneak up on him, not as deliberate thoughts, but as emotional flashbacks, small, uncontrollable reminders of what once felt easy and alive. What makes memories powerful is that they arrive uninvited. He doesn't choose to think of you. The thought simply appears, triggered by something ordinary. That's the thing about missing someone. It doesn't always announce itself with sadness. Sometimes it's just a quiet warmth in his chest that slowly turns into longing. The smell of your perfume, the way a certain movie line sounds, or even the sight of someone who moves like you did. It all becomes a portal. And in that split second, he's reminded not just of you, but of how he felt when he was with you. Because missing someone isn't only about the person, it's about the version of himself he was when you were around. The irony is that these emotional triggers often arrive at moments he least expects. He might be with friends laughing, pretending he's completely fine, and then suddenly something small pulls him back to a memory of you. He'll brush it off, shake it away, but the image lingers. That's how the heart works when it hasn't fully detached. It sends quiet reminders through nostalgia. It's not dramatic. It's not cinematic, but it's deeply human. These memories are how his emotions process absence, turning moments into meaning and meaning into longing. He may even try to resist it. He'll distract himself, fill his schedule, avoid the places where you used to go together. But avoidance doesn't erase emotion, it only delays it. Because every time he tries to run from a memory, life finds a way to bring it back in another form. The laughter of another woman that sounds a little too familiar, a phrase you used to say that slips from someone else's mouth. Each one reignites the feeling he's trying to forget. And over time, these reminders don't just make him nostalgic, they make him aware of how deeply you affected him, of how effortlessly you became a part of his world without him even realizing it. There's also a tenderness to these memories. They carry the emotional residue of connection. Even if things ended, even if words were left unsaid, the body remembers the comfort of your touch, the safety of your presence, the energy that filled a room when you were near. When he misses you, it's not just the good times he recalls, it's the feeling of being seen, understood, and emotionally alive. That's why the memories sting. They're not just fragments of the past, they're reminders of what he can't easily recreate with anyone else. And sometimes missing you through memories doesn't make him sad, it makes him quiet. You might notice it if you see him again. The way he looks at you, a bit softer, a bit more thoughtful, as if part of him is still remembering something he doesn't know how to express. Because every memory that resurfaces is like an emotional breadcrumb leading him back to what he once had. He may not say it, but those memories lie rent-free in his mind, reminding him that connection like that doesn't fade, it just changes form. That's why when a man misses you, it's often the little things that break him open. A melody, a scent, a sentence. It all becomes a mirror of what's unresolved in his heart. He doesn't chase those memories, but they chase him, showing up again and again until he finally admits, even if only to himself, that what he's feeling isn't just nostalgia, it's the quiet ache of missing you. When a man secretly misses you, it begins to show in the smallest patterns of his everyday life. He might not even realize it at first, but the rhythm that once felt natural starts to lose its beat. You see, missing someone isn't just about emotion, it's about habit. It's about the quiet moments that used to belong to another person, the daily rituals that carried someone's presence without even needing words. When you're no longer there, his days start to feel slightly unbalanced, like something essential is missing, but he can't quite put his finger on it. Maybe it starts in the morning. He reaches for his phone and instinctively checks for a message that isn't there. It's almost muscle memory now, the small rush of anticipation that once came from hearing from you. And when it doesn't happen, the silence lingers longer than it should. Throughout the day, he catches himself wanting to share something funny or tell you about something that reminded him of you. But the impulse has nowhere to go. So he keeps it to himself, trying to convince his mind that it doesn't matter, but his heart already knows it does. When a man's routine used to include you, your absence becomes more powerful than your presence ever was. The moments that used to feel automatic, checking in, joking together, hearing your thoughts, become hollow spaces he can't fill with anything else. He'll try, of course. He'll throw himself into work, hang out with friends, or maybe even date someone new, thinking distraction will dull the ache. But the truth is, none of it feels the same. The laughter feels a little forced, the excitement a little temporary. He's not missing activity, he's missing connection. And no amount of busy energy can replace the comfort of being emotionally known by someone who once understood him deeply. There's also a strange restlessness that begins to creep in. He might not be able to sit still, might feel constantly compelled to do something just to avoid the silence. Because silence is where you exist now, in the spaces between his distractions. He starts to feel that something intangible has been taken from his life, and the more he tries to ignore it, the more obvious it becomes. That's what missing someone does. It changes the energy of your days without asking permission. He might start revisiting old places, not even consciously looking for you, but hoping to feel something familiar again. Maybe he orders from the restaurant you both liked, or listens to that playlist you once made together. These aren't coincidences. They're emotional attempts to reconnect with a feeling that gave his life a sense of warmth and belonging. And though he won't admit it, he's trying to find comfort in the shadow of your presence. The routine he once took for granted now feels incomplete, like he's walking through the motions of life without its color. What makes this stage powerful is that it often brings realization. When a man starts to feel the emptiness in his routine, that's when he begins to understand what you truly meant to him. Because missing someone isn't always about sadness. It's about noticing how much life they added to your world. It's in the way you made things lighter, the way your presence filled his days with meaning. Once that's gone, everything else feels slightly out of tune. So he keeps moving, pretending everything's fine, but deep down he knows something's shifted. The mornings don't feel as exciting, the nights don't feel as calm, and even the things that once made him happy now feel temporary. That's what happens when you've become part of someone's emotional rhythm. They can't unlearn the way you made their world feel. He might not talk about it, he might not show it, but every time his day feels a little too quiet, every time something doesn't feel quite right, that's his heart quietly admitting what his ego still refuses to say. He misses you. The moment that truly changes everything is when a man realizes what he took for granted. It doesn't happen instantly, and it rarely happens while you're still waiting for him to notice. It happens later, after the silence, after the distance, after he's convinced himself he's fine without you. At first, he mistakes your absence for freedom. He enjoys the space, the quiet, the idea that he can move however he wants without considering someone else. But as time passes, something begins to feel off. The excitement fades, the noise settles, and he begins to feel the stillness that comes with life without you. That's when the realization starts to surface, not as a loud regret, but as a quiet ache that keeps showing up in unexpected ways. He begins to see the things you did that seemed small at the time but now feel irreplaceable. The way you understood his moods before he said a word, the way you listened when he needed grounding, the way your energy brought warmth into his world without demanding anything in return. He starts remembering those details not as moments, but as the foundation of what made him feel safe and seen. And as much as he tries to downplay it, he can't escape the truth. What he thought was ordinary was actually rare. This is often the part where men wake up emotionally. It's not triggered by loneliness alone. It's triggered by contrast. He starts to see how different connection feels when it's not with you. Maybe he dates again. Maybe he tries to move on, but something always feels slightly off. The conversations don't flow the same way. The laughter doesn't come as naturally, and the comfort he once took for granted is missing. That's when he begins to understand that you weren't just another person in his life. You were an emotional anchor, someone who added value in quiet, meaningful ways that his pride never let him acknowledge before. And the more he sees you thriving without him, the stronger that realization becomes. Because nothing shakes a man more than watching the woman he once knew move forward, glow up, and build a beautiful life without his presence. When he thought you'd wait, but you didn't. When he thought he could come back anytime, but you stopped being available. That's when his missing turns into regret. Not just regret for losing you, but for not seeing you clearly when you were right there. For confusing comfort with predictability and attention with effort. It's a deeply humbling moment for a man. He starts to see how much of his peace came from knowing you were there. He realizes how much he depended on the emotional safety you created, the softness, the support, the understanding. Now that it's gone, he feels the weight of it, not as anger or sadness, but as longing for something he can't easily replace. It's the emotional awakening that comes when you see love not as something you own, but as something you experience. And once it's gone, you recognize how rare it was. This realization often happens quietly. He might not say it, but it shows in how he looks at you when he sees you again. There's a softness in his tone, a hesitation in his words, an awareness that wasn't there before. It's the recognition of value, of something he mishandled, something he didn't nurture enough when he had the chance. And even if pride keeps him from admitting it out loud, deep down, he knows he lost more than a person. He lost an energy that made him feel understood. That's what missing someone really becomes in the end, not just a craving for their presence, but an awakening to their worth. Because when a man finally realizes what he took for granted, he doesn't just miss you. He starts to understand that your absence didn't just create space, it created growth. And that's when the truth hits hardest. He didn't just lose you, he lost the version of himself that existed when he had you.